Ordinary meeting of March the 9th here at the Chambers this morning. Welcome, Councillors, Deputy Mayor, members of the staff, members of the public, members of the press. He's just coming in the door, we can scan in. So thank you very much for being here. Councillor Kingi, would I be able to ask if you could value yourself and the blessing for the day, please? Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Kingi. Item 1 is apologies. No full house this morning, so no apologies. Item 2, any conflicts of interest pertaining to the items on the agenda today? No conflicts of interest there. So I'll just remiss at the start to welcome Mr. Clint Green, Chair of the Turangi-Tongariro Community Board, newly elected. Congratulations, Clint. Lovely to have you here, and nice to be part of the proceedings today. So thank you very much for coming up from Turangi, and I think your election deserves a round of applause. So wonderful. No problem. Pleasure. Item number 3 is a confirmation of the minutes of the last meeting. There are none? Okay. Simple as that. That's why they're not. That's why they're not on there. Are we okay with technology today, Mrs. James? Yeah. Okay. Good. Item number 4.1 is the tender contract for the asphaltic concrete resurfacing 2021. Number 3, Mr. Dennis Lewis. Good morning, Dennis.
Good morning, Your Worship, Councillors. There's a paper before you for the acceptance of a tender for asphaltic concreting, surfacing and various sites around the district. I would take the item as read, and have you got any questions?
Thank you, Dennis. Quite clearly the item. Councillor Leonard.
Dennis, are you able to explain to me why the project was estimated and then we've got tender processes coming in at quite a substantial difference? Has there been a large change in the material costs? I'm just trying to get my head around why we have an estimate of this and then we've had the tenders at X.
Where do you start?
I was just trying to develop my understanding is that we have approved budgets and then
so
with a
through the chair, the process of estimating is different to the process of preparing a tender. The estimating process relies on your knowledge of what pricing has gone before you in the tenders that you receive. You try and assess the market conditions at the time, and you put a price on what you think it might be based on the quantities. The tenderer put together prices based on the availability of work they have, what sort of work it is, the timing, those sorts of things, and it's not always possible to get the estimate as accurate as the tender prices.
Thank you very much. That increases my understanding. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Councillor Leonard. Any other questions of Dennis? Councillor Kingi.
Thank you, Worship. Just obviously reading the report, there's the notation about the removal of options 1 and 3, and I see there's a bit of context there. You're confident, Dennis, with those statements around the car parks at the southern end are going to be fine for this period? Just a reconfirmation of what I'm reading.
Through the chair, I had a look at those 2 sites when I was down in Turangi last week, and the sites to be removed from the tender were done purely on an assessment of the ability of the sites to last the distance. So the worst ones are being done first.
Councillor Kingi.
Thank you. So just supplementary to that, that would be with the view that we're just delaying that work tuanau.
That's correct.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kingy. Thank you, Dennis. No other questions of Dennis? Okay, that being there's a recommendation there that we accept the tender for the contract. Submitted by Downers for $1.2.82 million, $431.21. Sorry. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor Rankin, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Taylor. All those in favour, please say aye. It's against. Carried. Thank you very much, Mr. Lewis. 4.2 is the tender contract for the Great Lakes Centre re-roof and painting. Good afternoon.
Good morning. Start again.
Yeah.
I'm here seeking approval for the re-roof and the repaint for the Great Lakes Centre to go to Coleman's that we went out to a tender evaluation for. If you have any questions, happy to field.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smoggy. I'm just trying to think of it. I'm trying to think, Darren. Sorry, Darren.
That's all right. I've got plenty names. We won't go through that in this meeting, otherwise it'll be ages.
Thank you.
It is.
Thank you, Darren. Okay, the Great Lakes Centre, a roof. Councillor Park.
Yeah, thank you. Darren, I just noticed that the tender that's been recommended is from a Wellington group. Have we had them as a contractor before?
Yeah, so Goldman's Group are actually our roofing and building clean maintenance contractor. They carry out building assessments or roofing assessments and external assessments for us. So they've been working with us probably now for about the last year and a half possibly. So we're familiar with the guys as well, so yeah. And they're also site-wise accredited and all the other potential pre-quals that we need to do for council.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Boddy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just very quickly, it says re-roof and repaint.
Yes.
Is it a partial or total re-roof?
No, it's a total re-roof, so that they put a product over the top of what's currently there, and obviously doing inspections and bringing up to current standards and code of compliance that's needed, so that it's appropriate falls that need to be carried out.
So the roof is actually painted, it just has something
No,
additional
so
to it?
the roof is a membrane that goes over the top of it, so it's a full membrane, but what they do is because when it was built in 92, they have to look at the codes and make sure that it's compliant with regards to the falls that are required and stuff like that, so that's why there is a little bit of contingency in here for the unknown that we might find once we get up there. So it's a complete re-roof of the whole building, and also it's a full repaint. And sorry, there's another bonus as well in this one as well. What they've put in is they're actually putting in anchor points and steps and stuff like that. So for additional access for contractors that are coming in to do, obviously Goldman's doing the building wash and any other works that need to be carried out for a health and safety aspect.
So during the completion of this job, does it have scaffold around it, or that it doesn't? Is what these anchor points do?
Yep, so by carrying out, by doing the install of the anchor points and the step ladders and supports and stuff first, it'll actually minimise the bill. That's why we've seen that these guys came in a lot cheaper than the other competitors for this tender. So by carrying out that, they'll utilise that, but they'll also utilise some edge protection and scaffolding that is required just for a health and safety aspect.
Yeah, it might be in the item. Is there a guarantee?
There is, yeah. So if I remember rightly, I think Goldman's give a 20-year guarantee on the product, on the actual roof.
Right.
The current product's been up there for 29 years, so it's really outlasted what it should be doing, really. So yeah.
Okay. This can't come soon enough. It's
Def-
visually quite not aesthetic, that's for sure, to the eye at the moment, especially around the back towards the police station. But all right. Thank you very much, Darren. Councillor Boddy.
As well, I believe that any contingency that's not used comes back into that budget.
Yeah, so what we were discussing, there is other internal works. So what we have done is we've put off actually doing some work inside the hall, because you don't want to be patching that up and then still having leaks and issues. So what we've said is, if we do not utilise all of the funding, we'd like to try and see if we can do some repaint in the hall to make obviously the internals more vibrant for events and organising stuff like that.
Cool. Thank you, Councillor Williamson.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, thank you, Darren. I also endorse David's comments about visually notwithstanding leaking, etc. So it's well overdue. So I'm prepared to move the recommendation.
Thank you very much, Councillor Williamson. Do we have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Boddy. All those in favour, please say aye. It's against. Carried. Thank you very much, Darren. Appreciate your time
Have a
today.
good day.
All right. Item 4.3 is the draft asset management plans. Mr. Lewis. Good morning again, Dennis.
Thank you, Your Worship, Councillors. This paper is to adopt the draft asset management plans for consultation. If you recall, back in December, you adopted the draft asset management plans. What we've done is just made some adjustments post the workshops that we had with Council, developing the capital schedules, and so we've made those adjustments to the graphs. I'll take the item as read. I can make available on request volumes of the asset management plan should you wish to peruse them at your leisure in hard copy.
Thank you very much for your kind offer.
Only too welcome, Your Worship. They are enlightening reading.
Yeah, I could imagine. Any questions of Dennis regarding these former items? Yeah, Councillor Body.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we go to page, I think it's 46, to do with parks and recreation, I think it is. I'm just looking at the figures given for the next 3 years. It states that there will be an average spend of 8.4 million per annum on operational expenditure for the next 10 years. Parks capital expenditure renewals average 3.6, but if I look at expenditure in renewals, it's well in excess of that figure. So I'm just trying to work out what is it actually saying. It's so if I take expenditure renewals 4 or 5, it's nearly 6 million on 1 year.
I would have to come back to you with an answer to that,
Okay,
one,
thank you.
Councillor Body.
Thank you, Councillor Body. No other questions, Mr. Lewis? No? Okay, there's a suggested recommendation up there. We adopt the draft asset management plan. Could I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Westman, seconded by Councillor Guy. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Thank you very much, Dennis. Adoption, 4.4 is adoption of the draft development contributions policy 2021 for consultation. Mr. Hadley Tattle and Mr. Neil Ward. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. You've got the next five items have my name attached to them, and they're all related to the long-term plan and the ultimate adoption of the draft consultation document for consultation beginning on Monday next week. I'll just start off with a couple of comments. This will probably be my last act on this LTP, so I just wanted to say thanks to a whole lot of people that have got us to this point with this consultation document. I was saying to someone earlier, we're about 6 weeks behind on 2018 at Christmas. We're now only a week behind, and we'll go out for consultation next week on basically the same date as we did in 2018. So that's made a heck of a lot of work for a lot of people. So I just want to say thanks to them for getting us to this point. So the first item is the draft development contributions policy. So this has now gone through the audit process. So you'll recall we had very similar agenda items back on the 2nd of February. We've adopted all of these for consultation. This has gone through, for audit. This has gone through that audit process and has had no changes to it through that audit process. So this is simply now adopting this policy as draft for consultation beginning next week.
Thank you very much, Hadley. Anything to add, Neil, or just happy? Councillors, have you any questions for Neil Hadley on the draft development contributions? Okay, could I have a mover, please, that go out for consultation? Thank you, Councillor Guy, seconded by Councillor Rankin. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. The next one is the adoption of the rates remission and postponement policy for consultation.
Yep, so this
4.5.
is a similar situation to the previous point. This has now been reviewed by our auditors over the last month and now available for consultation.
All approved. Okay, thank you very much. Any questions there? Moved by Councillor Park, seconded by Councillor Taylor. Those in favour, please say aye. Those against. 4.6, adoption of the draft Treasury Management Policy for consultation.
Pretty similar to the last couple of items, really. Been through the audit process there, as well as obviously previous workshops with yourselves. So just adopting for consultation.
Thank you very much, Neil. Any questions of Neil?
Six, the TNP.
4.6, the Treasury Management Policy. Have a mover, please, for that. Thank you, Councillor Kingy, seconded by Councillor Guy. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. 4.7 is adoption of supporting information long-term plan consultation document.
Yes, so
Hadley.
this particular one, we're required by the Local Government Act to adopt all of the supporting information that contributes to the consultation document. So you'll see there's a long list of things there, starting off with the revenue and financing policy, right through to supporting information for the issues that are in the consultation document. So this encompasses all of that supporting information.
Thank you, Hadley. Moved by Councillor Park, seconded by Councillor Body. Oh, comment, sorry.
Thank you. I'm going to harp on my annual subject I bring up every time we get into this part of an agenda, and it's in regards of the UAG. I want to raise the question again. The uniform annual general charge used to be $470 on land value. Now it's $250 on capital value. But there's becoming an increasing difference between values of property. And the exercise that we were given, I think, was about 4 different property levels. If I just take two out random, and we talk about the general rate, which the UAG can be used to fund, one of the properties has an average of 410, and its general rate is 2646. But if you happen to have a property that's 730,000, your general rate is 3,444. And as our district progresses further, we find that those buildings that were built 50s, 60s and 70s have they'll have the same percentage increase but a lower capital. So the difference between what a person on a 410,000 property versus 730 is about $800 more on the general rate. There must be some way, and is it the UAG? Now we repeatedly are told that one of the reasons we can't shift it is because of the generators. Have the generators been approached on this issue and asked what their views would be if that altered, and how much would it actually alter what they pay versus what the rest of us pay? But it's now becoming more pronounced as the capital values of our properties in the district increase.
Thank you, Councillor Body. Too sure if you want to answer any of that now.
I'm not sure. Are you looking for an answer there, or is it just a comment?
I think I would like to see something more than a comment as to why. And I know when we had the land value it was 470, we're now 250. We can take 30%, I believe, of our general rate funding from a UAG, and some councils are right up there at the $600-700. The issue seems to be the generators. Now, I know when we went to, or long before my time, they went to capital value, there was an arrangement with the generators, and I don't believe there's very much consultation on that. And I'm just wondering whether they had been asked or been part of that conversation to set what we've got on this particular issue of 4.7, because it's now becoming quite pronounced.
Neil, I see Alan. Whoever wants to comment there. Councillor Williamson.
Yeah, thank you. Which just, picking up on John's comment, obviously valid, mentioning the power generators, but, we're a fairly unique situation with 6 rating sectors. If you increase the UAGC, you're introducing another $4 or $5 million into the residential rating sector. So 70% of the rate payers will be worse off. I know that it's harder on the higher rate, high value property, so it's a bit of a rock and a hard place.
Jim, got to respond to that. I disagree to the extent that because you're all paying, say, $470 or $500, you're all paying, irrespective of the capital value of your property, for the things that we all get from the general rate. For me, and I know we always have the statement made, nothing's fair in rating or taxation, which I agree with, but surely there's some way of making it fair. I've seen no substantial figures to disprove what I'm saying, and as I said, as we're getting more and more $700,000-800,000 homes versus those older ones, it doesn't, to me, it doesn't equate the same.
About 7 or 8 now too.
I guess my comment that I'd make at this stage is that we acknowledging your comments, Councillor. We as you know, we've workshopped all of this with you previously, and as a collective council made a decision as to where to land on your revenue and financing and rating policies. So that is what we're consulting on. In a future long-term plan, obviously, you can revisit all of your policy settings in terms of that.
accepted.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Body, for raising that one again. Thank you, Neil, for responding. All right, so there's a recommendation up there. Moved by Councillor Park, sorry. Seconded by Councillor Williamson. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. 4.8 is the adoption, the big one, of the consultation document for consultation, 2021 to 31. It's a long-term plan that we do every 3 years, but it's a 10-year plan.
Correct. That's right.
All right, any commentary on that? Or
So
Hadley, did
I
you
just
want
had a couple of key things to point out that are slightly different from the version that you adopted on the 2nd of February. So the first one is, and I know you're aware of this already, that 2 of the items that were issues in that version you adopted are now what we're calling FYIs. So there's a slight change to the structure within the consultation document, but those 2 projects are still identified in there for the community, but just not technically issues under the Local Government Act. And those are Waira House and the Turangi Recreation Activity Centre. The second one is, there's also, you'll see in there, additional commentary around the Three Waters project or change that's coming up. There's also an item in there around managing our critical assets, an item on climate change, and also one on delivering the capital program. Those were all audit areas of interest this time around, and just we've reflected some of the points that we're doing in relation to those in the consultation document. And then finally, just the rates for different property types. You'll see that that's in a slightly different format to what you've seen previously. There's actually a lot more information in there for people to review what their rates are going to be. Previously it was really just one number, but now you'll see it split down by all the various rates. There's a lot more information, which I think is a good thing. And then I'll just let Neil comment on the audit opinion that we've received this morning.
Probably just before I comment on the audit opinion, just following on from that information on the rates, I mean those sample properties, yes, we've provided some additional information in terms of the consultation document, and from tomorrow the next year's rates will be available through our online database on the website. So that's the ratepayers can have a look at what they'll be paying next year. As far as the audit opinion goes, we have received this morning, last minute, the audit report, which is an unqualified, which means good, audit report. However, there are 2 what are called emphasis of matter items in there, which is basically it's around drawing the reader's attention to a couple of points. One of those is in relation to the Three Waters reform, which you're all very aware of, and the uncertainty of what that means in the long term. So the basis of this long-term plan is based upon the status quo, i.e. Three Waters remaining in council, but everyone knows there is significant uncertainty in a large government program around the Three Waters reform, hence why that emphasis of matter is there. Every single council in New Zealand will be receiving the exact same emphasis of matter opinion on that. The second one relates to the uncertainty of the delivery of the capital program. As again we've alluded to through the workshops, we have, and you're well aware of, we have a huge amount of work on our plate at the moment, which is putting stress on both internally, consultant and contractor market. So we have done significant disclosures in this consultation document around that, and audit is really just drawing the reader's attention to that fact that there is a very large program which does run some risks of our ability and the market's ability to deliver that. So that's really
fair enough.
What's that about? But other than that,
Thanks.
very good audit.
Thanks, Neil. Yeah, great, and well done. Well done on that. And the two well, obviously Three Waters, but the second matter they raise, you know, you get total agreement. See, it's a huge, unprecedented, certainly in my time, of that capital works program. So fair enough to have that flagged. But everyone's working flat out to achieve that. And you know, and there's the document, Hadley, that you've produced on behalf of us. Well, your graphic team. It looks great, and just reiterate our thanks to you for delivering all the workshops and your team, finance team as well, for the clear, considered way that you've delivered all the information to us and the debate around the council. So thank you very much. So any questions or queries? Councillor Mack.
Of course I have. So, no.
That's why we started at 11:30, eh?
Can we just go for clarity then for the FYI now, which is obviously the Turangi Centre. Reading this, obviously it's saying we're not quite ready yet to go out to consultation. What does this do for our timeline?
I think probably to give you some clarity around that, the FYI section and the difference between a full-blown consultation item and a FYI is really about the depth of the supporting information that you have behind it at the time when you're consulting. As you're well aware at this stage, we are still in the infancy of that project, so we don't have the depth of information that we need to have in terms of a full-blown consultation item. We still have the money in the appropriate timeline as previously discussed in the long-term plan, and as we gather that further information from the community, we'll be in a better position to have that full-blown information available to the community.
Thank you. So you can understand where this is a little bit unique, because I understand that we normally would have projects and we'd move forward and we'd know what we were doing. This has all come about due to community aspiration, if you like, and also, if you like, council's will, if you like, to see Turangi move forward with its infrastructure. So you're right, it's unique. What I don't want to see is the fact that just because we haven't got a plan is that we don't know what we want, because we do know what we want, obviously. All I'm saying is that of July next year we have money in the pot to start basically looking at building this thing. That will continue, or are you saying that's going to be put out?
No, it'll be continue as per as outlined in the plan.
Okay, so say we do and we get a steering group together, etc. When would we go out for public consultation?
Probably at a point where you have sufficient information to go out for that consultation. Now that could be through an annual plan consultation process, or it could be completely separate. What this is doing is including the 15.9 million in total in the long-term plan to enable that to happen at some point in the future, and this is what this document sets out. When that happens will just be dependent on when we have sufficient information to go out to the community and talk to them about it.
And I think it's great that we've done this, because I do think we've managed to keep it in there without, you know, having what we need normally for an audit. What I want to say is congratulations on that, but obviously at the speed that we wish to move, we can move at our speed, if you like, and then we could go for consultation at any time we're ready. Yes. Excellent. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
Great news. Just need, it's up to you guys now to produce that information in conjunction with the staff. You know, so, Councillor Truman.
Just on page 9 of the long-term plan consultation thing, which just talks about water. So advantages, is whakamaru left out of that? And I'm not sure if it's spelled wrong, but yeah. Whakamaru, it doesn't talk about whakamaru, and I think that should be, because that's like...
I think we didn't list out the full and the advantages or disadvantages every single scheme, which I think is what you're referring to.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah, which we could add to there. We can add to that. Yeah.
And I've just noticed that O was missing, so we'll get that O added.
Yeah.
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 Yep. So that would definitely help in our
Yeah, yeah, sure.
that.
No, we can
Yeah.
certainly make sure we've listed all of the schemes there. So I mean that's shown in the schedule of where are we? It does show there somewhere on page 12. It lists out the comparatives there, but certainly in that advantages, disadvantages, yes, we can add those in. Thank you for that.
All right, very good. Okay, the recommendation up there. Do I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Leonard, seconded by Councillor Mack. All those in favour, please say aye. It's against, carried. Thank you, gentlemen. 4.9, review of the decision to establish Māori wards. I think we have Mr. Green and Sue. No, that's all right.
And kick me if
if I say something wrong, but
And vice versa.
probably more importantly, Sue's the absolute expert on this matter, so good to have her beside me. Your Worship, this is a matter which you've obviously been through a number of times, had a number of conversations on. As it says in the paper, you resolved to establish Māori wards for the Taupō District on the 23rd of November 2020, and that decision was made under the guise of some quite tight timeframes to be able to get that decision made before to be able to get it in place for the next local government election. At that time, you considered the views and preferences of the community and decided that you understood those views and preferences at that point in time in leading yourself to that decision. Since that time, we've obviously had the legislation change, so central government has changed the legislation to remove the ability for a binding poll, and so that has changed the situation. It's also provided the express opportunity or requirement for councils that were already in the process to come back and reconsider their view. The conversations I've had with central government officials is that was put in place in the Act because there were a number of councils who had made decisions to establish Māori wards on the basis that they knew that a poll was going to be coming and that therefore their community would get a say. I want to be really clear, Taupō, my understanding was that that's not a place that you were in, so you weren't in that place, although again the legislation has provided this requirement or opportunity to reconfirm your position. So what we've got today, Your Worship, is obviously with that change in legislation, you need to reconfirm your position or reconsider your position. In doing so, you'll be aware that our corporate solicitor has provided you some advice around our significance and engagement policy and the need or requirement for you to have a conversation with your community and engage with your community so that you are aware of the views and preferences of the community. So that's a matter for you to consider, whether or not you believe that you have enough understanding of the views and preferences of the community now, or whether or not you wish to undertake another process. So there's 4 options that we're putting to you today, ranging from simply confirming your previous resolution that would be on the bounds that you understand the views and preferences of the community. That you revoke your previous resolution on the understanding that you understand the views of your community, that you hold a non-binding poll on whether or not Māori wards should be established, or agree to canvass the view of the community, so undertake an engagement process. So to be really clear, that last recommendation, what we're talking about there is an engagement process with the community, probably through the use of electronic digital media, SurveyMonkey and the like. Need to be really clear in terms of that. This is not a popularity contest. You know, the ability to have a poll has expressly been, to have a binding poll has been expressly removed from the legislation. So it's around substance and you understanding the views and preferences of the community and making your decision. So that's the purpose of the paper, and we've put all 4 options there for you. I think if I was to provide you some advice from officers in terms of where we believe you should go, option 4 there, the agrees to canvass the view of the community, is our preference, and that's based on the legal advice that we've received. One of the things that this change in legislation provides is an opportunity of time, that we do have now time to go out for a quick process, and it's the advice of officers that we should be using that time to be able to tick the legal box and ensure that we do understand what the community's ideas are about this. And I think more importantly, or as importantly, is also an opportunity for us to explain the Māori wards and why you've made the decision that you have to date. And that it really can be that engagement piece. And I guess the other thing just to mention is at the end of last year, you'll be aware that Thames Coromandel District Council had a judicial review application on a unrelated matter to Māori wards. It was actually on climate change legislation, But in that case, the High Court made it very clear in terms of a requirement for a council to understand and at least undertake a consideration of whether or not you're aware of the views of the community. So whilst it's still your decision, and you could pass a resolution here today to simply confirm your previous position, I guess what we're saying is that there's an opportunity here to make sure that you're legally robust and can defend any future criticism through the judicial process. So is there anything you want to add?
Actually, the only thing I want to add is that you will have been forwarded David Ramaka's email that outlined the concerns from our iwi partners, both about the content of the paper and about the process for preparing the paper. The Mayor and the Chief Executive have had a conversation last night with the iwi partners to explain that, what the paper is seeking to do and what the process is, and assured them that as staff we won't be bringing papers to the council without working them through with the iwi partners first. And I'd just like to take the opportunity to apologise that we didn't follow that process with this paper, but we will endeavour to do that in the future.
Thanks, Sue. Thanks, Gareth. Councillors, Councillor Park.
Yeah, just a question for Gareth. So in November, a resolution came to. It is predetermined what our views are about the Māori seats in the process. If we go out and consult, is that actually a transparent exercise, or is it just ticking a box? Because I believe that we have all predetermined our positions, therefore, can we go out and consult, and will the community have trust in us that it's a transparent process? Because to me it doesn't feel like it is.
So my response to that, Councillor, would be you're often put in a position where you need to, and my lawyer's just jumped in behind me, which is good news as well. You're often put in a position where you need to undertake consultation with a starting point, but you go into that with an open mind and the ability to be able to consider the views of the community. Again, bearing in mind this isn't a numbers game. It's not about having a clear majority one way or the other. It's about the substance of any decisions. So you just passed a consultation document on the long-term plan as an example, which has some positions in there and some preferences. You're now going out to the community and you've got an open mind, so you'll now hear what the community says and you will make those changes as required. And you have a track record for that through a number of processes that we do. So
okay, sorry. So this is where it really annoys me what central government have done, because the reason I voted against establishing Māori ward seats for 2022 was because of the process. Now, because of and the process was you make a decision and then if a poll comes in behind that. So that's sort of the opposite of how a transparent council is in other processes. So now that the ability for that has been removed, I just can't see how we can go out and openly canvass, consult, survey the community when we have all voted in a resolution and it's on the books how we all feel about it, and it's on YouTube.
So I see Nigel's
our
itching to
thoughts
get
about
Nigel's itching to get involved.
Through the chair, and I think Councillor...
Just before you answer that, Councillor Taylor, did you have a clarification?
Yeah, a couple of points. The ground has changed upon which we stand in respect of this dramatically. I didn't vote in favour of Māori wards only because I wasn't here. Had I been here, I would have. My vote would have been yes. But I have also been subject to the emails, as all of us have, from a number of people over a number of months on both sides of the spectrum. And I'd have to say, I have read all of them, both pro and con. I do not come to this with a predetermined point of view, and I'm open to being persuaded. My persuasion at the time of the vote would have been in favour, but I'm happy to read all the information that's presented to us. To say that because we've got and sorry, I disagree, Anna, that we've got a predetermined position on the books, you could also argue the same with the CAB. We had a resolution on the books that we would build on 2 Wharetoa Street, the ground changed. COVID came along, the economic environment we're in radically changed the position we have, and we have gone back, and that is in the consultation documents we're putting out as well. So I actually don't see it as being false in terms of the consultation. I think it's a reasonable step. Both of the High Court decisions that we've been given from our legal representative set out some very clear expectations of us in terms of process. And I think we're obliged to follow process. Now, the process has changed. Had the law not changed in Parliament, we would have been facing the need or the requirement to hold a poll, given that the numbers that have come in. We don't have that. And I think it's appropriate to take the advice of staff, and I'm leaning towards option number 4, as Gareth has recommended to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
Do you want to, what's the best way to go? Do you want Councillor Williamson? Yep. Councillor Williamson.
I feel what Councillor Taylor's saying. I agree to a point, but exactly that's the point where the cabinet, the situation has changed, but we're going out in the consultation document with a preferred option. Then we're not having predetermined. And my still concern is, with Anna was saying, with a consultation with a preferred option could have gone out prior to November the 23rd. With a preferred option, then it would not be predetermined. But since there is a resolution there confirming the Maori wards by majority in November, I think possibly perhaps going out in the community canvas. I see the words using canvas in the recommendation, and somewhere in the report consultation there's obviously a difference, perhaps a difference there, but whether it's going to be seen as a perception that the decision's already made or presented.
I want to carry on with the councillor views, and then you could probably sum up. Councillor Body? Okay. Councillor Rankin?
I wasn't here either when the vote was taken, and I would have voted against, and I've been clear about that, and I haven't changed my mind. And I do believe that this is a huge thing for our council and for our district, and people need the opportunity to speak, and we do need to hear that with an open mind. But I too felt that it was predetermined, and I was a little bit worried maybe we should clarify, because Gareth, you did refer to it as needing to tick the box of consultation, and I just want you to clarify that, because I don't think you meant just ticking the box. I'm presuming you mean it's an open process where we have a responsibility to at least listen.
So my reference to ticking a box is undertaking a process. It's it shouldn't be misunderstood that it's around not listening to that consultation. It's ticking a box in terms of doing the process.
Thank you.
Councillor Kingi?
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, just a few thoughts from me. So, totally hearing the cordial that's coming from the floor today. I think the way I read this paper, and certainly the way I interpret it, is we're at a crossroad, I guess, again, just as we were in November. And we're at a crossroad to, I think, also signal some intent. So if I think back to 23rd of November when we made that, and when we sat here as a council to make that decision, certainly within my own skin, I felt that I had a clear enough understanding, certainly from members of my community, around what Māori representation might look like, because it is well understood. People, unless they live under a rock, won't understand what's happening nationally, but certainly it is advertised in papers and social media, and so everybody knows that there is a this cordial, this kaupapa, this topic is being discussed fairly openly. So I think at that stage we made the right decision. Today I sit here and I stand by that decision, which is to confirm our council's original position. I believe that I was armed with enough information and the support of perhaps my community to make that decision. So, Your Worship, I'm certainly going to retain a position of maintaining status quo, which is option 1, and I believe we should have the confidence to move to that. If we made the decision in November and it was good enough, I think it's still good enough today. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kingi. All right, Nigel, your turn.
I think, thank you, Your Worship. All the councillors, I think, have made very valid points. I think the point I want to make is possibly it's easy to overcomplicate that. This is a question simply about community engagement. I think the question you need to be asking yourselves is that will further community engagement add anything more to what you already knew when you made the decision on the 23rd of November? That's really the question you need to turn your minds to today, and you've already done that in your conversations, and for some of you, obviously you feel that you did have enough information, so further community engagement might not add anything to that, then that might inform your position on the proposed resolution. Perhaps what has changed since the 23rd of November is the removal of the poll, so that has given the opportunity to undertake some form of additional community engagement without the spectre of the binding poll hanging over the council. But again, if you feel that on the 23rd of November you had sufficient information and you were fully, properly informed of the views and preferences of your community to make the decision, then again that might draw you to a particular resolution up there in front of you today. The other thing you might say is that undertaking further engagements consistent with the local government principle about open and transparent business, and have been consistent with a democratically accountable council. So that might be another factor to take into your consideration. But I think the key point I want to make is that it is important that you at least turn your minds to the question about whether there is a need to undertake any further community consultation, and that's the discussion that you're having at the moment, and that's what you need to turn your minds to.
Very good, thank you very much, Nigel. Councillor Mack.
So clarity is that the TTCB remains, if you like, 100% behind going for a Maori ward. I personally understand that and agree with it. I don't really understand why we're so scared, though, in going to the community. At the end of the day, we're elected officials for the community. And yes, we did have the backup, if you like, that they could have a vote and, if you like, go to a poll, which has been removed. If people are now feeling the angst about that, I don't understand why we can't let them still have their voice. At the end of the day, we're still going to come back, whether it changes us or not. We have the final decision. But I do think that, in all democracy, before I was on council, I used to get so annoyed that people used to tell me how I should think. And at the end of the day, if I had my say and people still had their opinion and it still went against me, I still felt that I'd had my say. And I think that's the big thing here at the moment. It doesn't change how people feel, if that's how they feel. As I said, the TTCB will remain that it wants the Maori ward. And I don't feel going out and giving people a voice will do any harm to anybody.
Councillor Truman.
Yeah, I wish we could reword it to say, how do people that are on the Māori roll wish to be represented? Because that's what it's about. And it's like people on the general roll are trying to dictate to people on the Māori roll how that should look. It really should be, how do people on the Māori roll wish to be represented? Do they want to be open in general, or do they want a specific Māori ward? But I'd like to see, if we do any consultation, that we see whether the person that is putting across their view is on the Māori roll or on the general roll, because this should just be about people on the Māori roll and how they wish to be represented.
Cool. Thank you, Councillor.
Through the chair.
Truman. Councillor Williamson.
It just raises an interesting point with regard to, obviously, if this meeting you take a position of supporting, for example, supporting the resolution to establish the Māori wards, and the vote goes to agree to canvass the view of the community, does that compromise, is that self-determining, or does that compromise the final decision by members?
No, I think that I don't think that compromises the original decision. As I say, this is really a community engagement piece, and I think, as Councillor Mack was suggesting, there is an opportunity now for the council to undertake some further community engagement if it feels that it wants to canvass the views and preferences of the community in relation to the establishment of Māori wards. So no, I don't think it compromises the original decision.
I'm still not completely comfortable, because if you're stating it, and I irrespective of what my stand is, I'm supportive. But you're going out to the community, I just has said that, it isn't going to compromise. I feel it could be compromised when I come to make the final call. Either way.
Yeah, and I think it gets back to the point. You know, will further engagement add anything to what you already had in front of you on the 23rd of November? And obviously, some councillors have voiced an opinion that no, it won't. If they had enough information in front of you at the time when the decision was made on the 23rd, for others, they might hold a different view.
Very good. Councillor Guy.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Just through the chair, I certainly supported the Maori wards. One of the things was that my expectation was that Maori would be included in and not just consulted on things that local government decided, and but actually be part of the decisions that are made. And I feel that although I'm in agreement with Councillor Williamson and Park with regards to the fact that we are elected representatives, we speak on behalf of those that elect us, I still think that we should potentially, and I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. I've watched the parliamentary sessions, and I do think that there should be the ability for a consultation to be undertaken, precisely for that reason, that I think we should not assume that decisions are decided around the table without consultation from the local community.
Through the chair, yeah. I
Councillor
respect Councillor Guy's comments. I totally agree, because for one, like all of us, has always been very clear on good consultation engagement with the community. I'm just going, if I reassure we're not predetermined a decision and going back reconsulting. We didn't consult with preferred option in the first place, so I'll be more comfortable with that suggestion.
So I guess, Your Worship, all we can do is repeat the advice that you'll be going into it with an open mind, like what you do with all other decisions.
Councillor Boddy.
Let's make a couple of comments. I voted against the Maori wards on the basis that we hadn't consulted, and that was what was required of the Act. Because of the decision of council, a petition was formed, was drawn up. It was not a petition whether you were for or against. It was a petition to give you the right to have your say, which I think in a democracy is very, very important. It's also interesting that when the 23rd of November meeting, in the letter that Ms Maver read out on page 3, it stated some Maori were in agreement, some hadn't made their mind up, and a couple of weeks later in the weekend, Mr Bennett, a well-known Maori figure from the Turangi area, made a comment in regards of who from that iwi would be, or on any iwi would be on that ward. And I found it very interesting this morning reading the paper with one of the Labour MPs who state, if you want to be pro-Maori, you don't get on council. And I thought that was very telling. My concern now is that how do we now consultate? I know Survey Monkey was mentioned. I represent the older person in this district, and many of the older persons do not have the facility for that survey requirement. I look down here, we talk about canvass the views. What does canvass mean? So I'm going to ask Nigel, is it possible that when we get to the 2022 elections, the poll then, if that's the use of the word under election, is taken at that time? That certainly saves one hell of a lot of expense, and then everyone gets the chance to have their say, particularly if they're on the as ratepayers. So I'm just interested how this would be handled to accurately canvass the district.
So communication, perhaps we just hold that. There's a question about how we canvass. So I think you want to answer that, or Councillor Taylor, have you got?
So, Your Worship, I'll give it I'll give it a start. So you'll see in the paper that we talk about developing a communications plan if that was the decision that you were to go down. The councillor is right. We would look at what mechanisms we have to be able to make sure that we target and get feedback and valuable feedback from all parts of the community. the electronic version would be certainly a key part of that, because it's a nice, easy, quick way of doing it. I'd reiterate that this isn't about numbers, it's not about consultation even, it's about engagement, and so it's about having that ability to engage with our community. I think the second part of the question was around if we were to have a council initiated poll, and whether that could be done at the timing of that poll could be at the 2022 elections. Nigel, do you have a view on that off the top of your head?
I'll have to come back to you on that, Councillor.
Yes, you can do that, but that would be about establishing Māori wards for the 2025 election. So you're then delaying it, and like you say, there is still cost involved. Tina Jakes did get you did get an estimate, didn't you, about how much that reduced it if the...
So if that was held in conjunction with the 2020 elections, there's no additional cost, but if it's held outside of that process, then it's around 8,000.
Councillor Taylor.
Look, my view of the discussion is this is about process. And if I go back to the case that Nigel provided us from the High Court and the Thames Coromandel Council, if you just give me a couple of seconds, I'll read it, a brief excerpt. The judge's finding of unlawfulness serves as an important reminder to councils to err on the side of caution, where a proposed decision of council may potentially be a significant one in terms of the Local Government Act. In cases where the decision may possibly be significant, councils should actively turn their minds to how they will achieve compliance with the requirements of under Part 6 of the Act, particularly Sections 77 to 78, and then follow those requirements to the extent necessary in proportion to the significance of the decision. It's about process. It doesn't predetermine an outcome. And the process nationally has changed, and which is why I reiterate my preference for the fourth recommendation there. And even if the majority, and if I refer to the second case that we were given, even if the majority of the submissions are in favour, that does not bind us. This is not binding on us at all, but it's about process.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Mack.
This is what I'm saying as well, is I don't understand what we're scared of here. I think if we are elected members, we have to ask our constituents. And that's nothing to be scared of. But if you can hand on heart sit here today and go, I've spoken to enough people that I know what the will of the people is, then you're a good person, because a lot of people, don't do that. So I still believe that I don't understand what we're scared of. You can still come back here, and we've still got, as I say, the TTCB won't change its mind. That's fine, but you have to still say to these other people, what is it that you don't want, or what is it that you do want? It's not difficult, I don't think.
Right, Councillor Westman, sorry. Yep.
What I'm concerned about is, I think we've already made a bit of an obligation to our iwi partners. We have taken on board people's comments and the information. This has gone on for 6 years, friends, and I am concerned that, we are just backpedaling again, and the wording for the fourth recommendation, I just don't think the wording's quite right. I think we've all gone into that meeting in November. We made a decision on behalf of people that we've spoken to, quite right, John, and I just most probably don't see any reason to change what we've done. And we've then gone out and spoken to iwi and said, this is a decision that was made at council, having taken in years of communication.
Councillor, not Councillor. Sorry, soon to be. No.
Yeah, just picking up on Councillor Westman's point and in reference to Councillor Taylor's point, I think in terms of process, you are turning your minds to that question now. You are actually engaging and carrying out the process. So this is really about the councillors having a conversation about would any further engagement add to what we already know about the views and preferences of the community. And I know some of you have expressed the view that you were well aware of the views and preferences of the community, so you need to be asking yourself, would going out for further engagement add anything more to that you already know? So that's the question for you as the decision makers. But in terms of process and in response to your concerns, Councillor Taylor, this is, by this very discussion, you are carrying out your decision making obligations.
Councillor Park.
Nigel, just in from your perspective, can we leave the resolution sitting on the books and go out and canvass, or do we have to start with a blank piece of paper?
No, you can leave the resolution as it is. As I say, this is about whether you want to undertake any further community engagement about the topic, whether you think that would add anything to what you already know about it and about the feelings in the community. Obviously, you're well aware that there is one part of the community who will have a strong view one way, and another part of the community will have a strong view the other way, and there'll be other persons who have different views within either end of that continuum. And so you just need to ask yourself whether you think going out for further engagement and hearing from those persons is going to add anything more to that which you already knew when you made your decision on the 23rd of November.
Okay, Councillor Kingi.
Thank you for that, Nigel. I think you've adequately explained the situation. So, Mr. Mayor, I would like to move a affirmative motion in favour of number 1, which is to confirm the resolution of the council's decision on the 23rd of November. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That's the option 1 there, or the first part. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Westman. Anyone like to speak against that, or in support of that? Which is the support first or second? Against? Doesn't matter. Okay. Does anyone want to speak in support of that? Okay. No, yes.
While I respect, and I know that they are passionate views of the people who are voting for, you put your decision, because it's not mine, at risk by not going back out and consulting. You put at risk the chance of a judicial review which overturns it, and I think that's dangerous.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. It doesn't appear to be any support to the mover and seconders, so sorry, yep. All those in favour? So 4. Okay, so that motion is lost. You were sorry, and against, sorry. So, that's just go out with and it's basically against the officers' views today. So against, sorry, hands up again.
Can you just pass that? What resolution are we voting on?
So the first one.
Number 1. So Councillor Kingi
as
moved
option.
resolution 1, and
Yeah.
so that's been seconded. So this is the vote against that.
Right. Do you want to speak against?
No, I'd just like to raise a question to our legal advice. If we choose to opt for option 4, it still keeps the resolution where it is. Is
Absolutely.
that correct?
Yeah.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah. It just gives us the
Thank
luxury
you.
of a bit more time. That's all. Councillor Taylor.
So is that recommendation?
So that
finished now?
recommendation is lost.
All right, round 2, I'll move option number 4 in that case.
Okay.
Hang on, sorry, there's just still some
Oh, sorry.
clarification.
So,
Yes,
yep,
sorry to cut across
the
you.
mover would like to speak.
Yeah, just, sorry, Mr. Mayor, I think I'm misunderstanding this point. The way I read that is there are 4 options. It's or. That's the way it's written. So if I can get an and, I'll support it. But the way I'm reading it right there, right now, is saying I've got to choose one. So can we clarify, please, what does it mean?
So,
Mr. Green? Oh.
So, Your Worship, they are ors, but the existing resolution sits on your book currently for the the fourth resolution there, or the proposal, that agrees to canvass the view of the community, the resolution that sits from the 23rd of November remains, but you're going out to canvass the views of the community.
So it's an existing resolution there now.
That's right.
No change on that.
And this does not revoke.
It stays.
This
So
does not revoke that
Can it actually be
resolution.
reworded to say that? Because I don't think people read it that
So
way.
the only one that revokes this resolution, you'll see, is the second one. So the first one confirms the resolution, that previous one, so that resolution stays, and that's the one that you moved and was seconded and failed. So that's we can't go back to that one.
Sorry.
The revokes the resolution is quite clear that previous resolution then disappears, and you go and undertake the and it disappears. The next two are around under what process you do. So that previous resolution in November remains whilst you undertake those two processes. Does that clarify it?
So having moved that next resolution, can I suggest that we edit it by adding in there while the current resolution TDC 2020-11 blah 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 remains on the books? Yep, or words to that effect.
Yeah, so you're suggesting an amendment for number 4? Is that? So Councillor Taylor has moved an amended resolution. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Rankin. Could I have a show of hands, all those in favour of that?
Moment, please, Mr. Chairman, if you may.
Speak against? Okay.
No, I'm not speaking against. I'm going to come back to what I raised the issue before, and it found that I'm correct, that this can be included in the 2022 elections. And if we go back to the document that we put out about 6 months after the last election, if I refer to 5.3, the matter of the introduction of married wards was considered in 2017, at which time Council resolved not to introduce married wards, but rather to pursue iwi Maori representation options with iwi and Maori collaboration with the intent to implement an agreed option before November 2020. We failed. And I believe leaving an amount of time from now to those elections in October next year, that gives everyone in this community to hear both sides of the argument. It's something that's going to cost zero. It will canvass a hang of a lot more than that fourth resolution in regards of the views of the community. While I'm not going to vote against that fourth one, if that's what I have to fall back on, that will be it. But I believe there is another option that's cost effective, very cost effective, and everyone gets a chance to have their say. And we can spend the next 18 months, as we've failed to do, further work with others for better representation.
Okay. So, Your Worship, all I'd say on that one is that would be the, just for clarification, that process would be Resolution 3, because that's the non-binding poll.
Yeah, cool. Thank you very much. Is there any appetite around the table for that, to delay this further? Yep. Okay.
With respect, you've got a motion on the table.
Yes, sure. I just wanted, obviously, perhaps Councillor Body was suggesting amendment to that, but it's already been amended, so we will just table what you've the information you've provided there. Councillor Mack.
With the option on the table, what I was going to say as well, I wasn't here in 2017, which is fine, so they made that decision. Things have moved on. You know, we have actually had an agreement now with our iwi partners that we want to be in partnership. So in that respect, we're actually doing that now, if you like, and what we've probably missed out a little bit is that we haven't gone out and canvassed, but we're doing that now. So in theory, we're doing the right thing by doing this, because we've got the resolution, that's not going to change. We're just going out to hear what the public think.
Thank you, Councillor Mack. Councillor Truman?
I just think also it's an opportunity for us to educate people about what this whole thing is about, because we haven't done that, because we're waiting to see whether there was going to be a poll, and then we would go out and educate. Well, this is our chance to educate, so I'm all for it. And yeah, I just really want to see that in there, that we can see if they're on the Māori roll or the general roll, because that is so key to people understanding this whole thing.
Mr. Chairman, just on that point, and I respect what Councillor Truman is saying, because she said exactly what I want to happen. Do we have to have this over by the 30th of May or 21st of May? Therefore, we have a time restraint that I believe is completely unacceptable if we're going to make a decision on something as important as this. By doing that delay now, I know that Mr. CEO has said it's a poll, but it's a poll that costs nothing. And if we're going to take the fact it's not actually saying what I'm saying, that it's a non-binding poll, it's an indication what the community want at, if I listen to Mrs. Jakes, zero cost. Very important.
Yeah, okay, well, I sort of mentioned that, yeah. So, okay, that option 4, the amended option. Councillor Westerman?
Just to amend an amendment.
Can you
It's
do that?
very, very negative wording in that clause, and that's why I'm really not in agreement with it. But I just wonder whether you could put something like agrees to canvass the view of the community on Maori wards, whether or not flags it in my face that, you know, that there is an option here. And I agree we're out there, as Kirsty saying, education and a bit more communication, but I think the wording's
Just
negative.
check whether the mover is happy with that amendment on amendment.
Right.
But just wanted to clarify from our legal team as to, is that possible?
So Sue's actually got some
Sue?
proposed words that she's just scrolled down, which I think probably
Yeah.
do that and quite articulate.
Okay, is the mover prepared to listen to these words?
You go first.
Oh, yours might be better words. I had just changed it to engage with the community to seek their views and opinions on the establishment of Māori wards for the 2022 and 2025 elections.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Good.
Councillor Westerman, you happy with that? Yep, cool. All right, any other speakers? Okay. Have we, are you, is that, no, that's, did you get that latest wording, Shani? Should we get it up there and just, yeah. Okay, sorry, Sue, do you mind reading that out again?
Yep, we've just changed it a little bit, sorry.
Yeah, oh, you changed it again?
Yeah.
It's the 4th amendment.
I had agrees to engage with the community rather than canvass, to seek their views and opinions on the establishment of Māori wards for the 2022 elections. We just took the 2025 out because if you decide for the 2022 it stands for 6 years.
Yeah. Very good. Okay. Councillor Westman?
Oh, sorry, yes,
Yeah,
yes, you're right. While resolution, whatever the number is, remains.
Enforce or enforce, yeah.
Yeah.
Remains. Just remains, yeah, I don't know if enforce. Yeah, just remains. All right, thank you very much, Councillor Taylor, and seconded by Councillor Rankin. No final comments?
Just to say,
Sorry, Councillor Boddy.
I'm concerned about the time frame, but I'll still vote in agreement.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Councillor Boddy. Yeah, okay. Sorry, Shane. The just while we're thinking about that, while that's coming up, the communications plan, we will get that in due course as to how that will be how that would be activated.
Yes, you can. The first meeting to start working on that is at 2 o'clock this afternoon, so hopefully we'll have something that we can share with you soon.
Okay, thank you. Is the last one there? Yeah, agrees to okay. So agrees to engage with the community to seek their views and opinions on the establishment of Māori wards for the 2022 local government elections. While resolution TDC, so, the numbers there remains. Moved by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Rankin. All those in favour, please say aye. Is against? Thank you, Councillor Kingy. Would you like that recorded? Councillor, thank you. Okay, resolution is passed. Thank you very much, team. 4.10, Ironman road closures. We have Dennis Lewis. Good afternoon now, Dennis.
Indeed, Your Worship. So paper here before you for the road closure for Ironman. As you'd be aware, last week Ironman postponed their event to the 27th of March. We do go through a process of advertising road closures prior to events. to enable the road closure to occur for this proposed date of, this date of 27th of March. We're using the Local Government Act, whereby council serves notice of the intention to close the road, followed by a decision to close the road. So the notification was put in the paper on Friday, and this paper is seeking a decision to close the road, acknowledging that there is a short time frame between the notice and the decision making. This has been brought upon us by our lovely friend COVID. We have received no feedback up until about 10:30 either way on the notice that was put in the paper. I've checked both with our customer services and with the online team.
Lovely, thank you. Thank you very much, Dennis. Yeah, this is a unfortunate, but fortunate. Well, fortunately, the event's still going ahead, but unfortunate for the another projected road closure, I suppose. But do we have any questions or queries of Dennis? Councillor. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Park, seconded by Councillor Williamson. No more discussion. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Thank you, Dennis. Creation 4.11, creation of pedestrian malls in the Taupō Town Centre. Mr. Nick Carroll.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and Councillors. I'll take the paper as read. I understand Kevin Strongman's walked you through all the proposed changes this morning, looking at the different intersection designs, so I understand you're over that in terms of your understanding. What I did pick up from that conversation was the importance of making our maps and pictures very legible for people. So what you will have seen attached to this paper was the draft words that we would put into the statement of proposal. That statement's getting near the end of its actual design process, so we're getting close, but as I say, what I'll do is I'll go back and double check that and make sure that we've got really clear labels, so it's very obvious to people about where roads are and where buildings are, so they can orientate themselves. So that was a key learning from this one. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Nick. Any questions or queries on this? Consultation? We understand that word, don't we? Okay, thank you very much, Nick. I realise this has got to be done, so thank you for bringing the item today and the detail in the item. Do I have a move, please? Thank you, Councillor King. Sent by Councillor Westman. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Thank you, Nick. Right, that part of the meeting is closed. Yep, that's the finish of the public part of the meeting. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Great to be here. I think we're all allowed to stay in there. Okay, can we just have a move into confidence with the presence here? Thank you, Councillor Williamson, seconded by Councillor Taylor. What's that?